Well, hello and welcome to wonderful Italy, the marvellous Adriatic coast and the Misano World Circuit Marco Simoncelli for qualifying for the 12 Hours of Misano powered by Hankook. We are about to get underway quite soon with the first part of qualifying, which will be for the TCEs and the GT4s, 3 sections of that. Then after a brief respite and a break, we get to see the faster cars, the GT3s, the GTXs and the 992s. Of course, this circuit named after Marco Simoncelli, the rider who was killed, unfortunately, tragically in Sepang, and then it was picked up in 2012. It became the circuit Marco Simoncelli. It has a couple of unique features about it, one of which is that about 14 years ago, they changed the direction. They decided to go from, nope, we want to be clockwise now, we're no longer be anti-clockwise. A very challenging track, very much a motorcycle track, and as you get to see it during the coverage, you'll understand why we say that they're very flat curves, the corners all have multi-apexes. It's a tricky circuit to get round. I'll be really interested to see how the GT3s cope with it. But to start off, we're going to be seeing the TCEs and the GT4s. Okay, so just coming up in a second, we're going to see the calendar for the Hankook series for this year, and so just to recap for you, we started off in Misano, so we've been in Italy already once with the 12 Hours of Misano, and then of course we were lucky enough to go to Spa-Francorchamps, where they had every single possible type of weather in about 12 hours. We came out of that with the 24 Hours of Portimao. We are now here in Misano for the 12 Hours of Misano, and we will finish the European season in a few weeks' time at Barcelona for the 24 Hours of Barcelona. But it's not just me you'll be thanking yourselves. Oh, look, and here comes the Catholics up now. It's 13th to 15th September, the 24 Hours of Barcelona. But it's not just me wittering away down in the pit lane, enjoying the sun, having a fabulous time. We have Diana Binks.
Thank you very much, Nick. Yes, I am here in the pit lane in Misano, and I've got to tell you, it is incredibly hot. So for any of you that know me, no bubble hat will be needed this weekend for sure. It's 27 degrees, but it feels a lot hotter than that. The actual tarmac is something like 56.5 degrees down here. So you know, sticking to that pretty well. I had Colin White from CWS come out earlier to check the temperatures, and he said he had to put some sand on his feet to stop them sticking to the tarmac out here. But these teams are now getting ready to go out for the qualifying session for the TCE and the GT4s. They'll take 15-minute sessions each. So we'll have 3 qualifying sessions of 15 minutes and a 5-minute break in between. And 3 drivers have to go out and complete those 3 sessions. So we'll find out who will take that pole position slot a little bit later. But all quite quiet down here at the moment. There's not much wind at all. Everyone's just keeping as in the shade as much as they can and getting ready to get in behind the wheel. I mean, it's going to be incredibly hot temperatures behind the wheel for some.
Thanks, Di, and it looks like you're thoroughly enjoying the weather. Now, luckily, again, it's not just me, and it's not just Di. I am joined by my multiple partner in crime this year, the other voice who I spend most of my Sundays sitting next to. It's Joe Bradley. Joe, how are you doing?
Good afternoon, Nick. Good afternoon, everybody. Who would not want to be here at Misano? The beautiful blue skies, just a few wispy clouds, and it's absolutely scorching hot out there. Not where we are, though, Nick. We've got the splendour of air conditioning, thankfully.
Have I?
Yeah, we leave Di down there to catch up on the tan. We've got a green flag as well, so qualifying 1 underway. Shall we explain to everybody what the format is?
You go for it, Joe.
I'm not sure you could hear me there, Nick, over the engine noise going there. We've just got a green flag, Nick. Shall we?
Yes, go for it. Explain it.
Explain what the format is. We've got 6 cars out, 4 GT4 class cars and 2 cars in the TCX class. We'll tell you who they are in a moment. We split qualifying in the 24H series into 3 sections. 3 sections of 15 minutes each, where a different driver has to take part. And certainly we've got enough drivers to do that, apart from CWS Engineering. That's going to prove me to be a bit of a liar because they've only got 2 drivers. So qualifying 1, which we've just kicked off. Now this is the interesting bit, and one that I'm a massive advocate of. We are only allowed to run an amateur driver. Now, what do I mean by amateur driver? That's your kind of a driver, the gentleman driver we refer to. Now, the reason for that is we start the session with brand new Hankook tyres. And to optimise your qualifying run, you would put your fastest pro driver in there, wouldn't you, to get the maximum out of those brand new tyres. However, what this does by only allowing the AM driver to start on those brand new tyres, it's the AM driver that benefits from the optimised run on the new tyre, and by the time the pro driver gets it, well, hopefully they'll not be too worn out.
Yep, and those 6 cars that are taking part in this first part of qualifying, I say there's 2 TCX, we'll start them first. That's the ESR Motorsport with their Porsche 718 Cayman GT4 CS, and that CS is important, as you'll find out later. And we have, obviously, CWS Engineering, Colin White's team with their Ginetta G55. They'll be battling out for TCX honours. And we have 4 GT4s, which include our Street Art Racing, that's with their Aston Martin Vantage AMR GT4. We have the stalwarts of the series recently, the Boogie Ra ZM Racing team with their Mercedes AMG. We have Hankook Motorsport, from Belgium with their BMW M4 GT4. We have Lion Speed, who also have a Porsche Cayman GT4, but it's the RS, not the CS, which obviously means it's a GT4 rather than a TCX. Drivers on the tarmac include, so Colin White is going out in the CWS. Now, what happens if you've only got 2 drivers? You are allowed to use the same driver twice. So Colin will do sections 1 and section 3, I assume, with Daniel Morris in that 178 just doing section 2. We have Michael Sander out in the SR Motorsport car. It's Pascal Bachmann who is taking the Street Art Racing Aston Martin. Ali Kolic, the female racing driver from, she's from...
I'll find that out.
Yeah, I was about to say Saudi Arabia. I thought, no, I don't think it is Saudi Arabia. I think it might be Kuwait, actually. But it's from one of the Middle Eastern countries. The flags are all very similar, which is very interesting about that. If you look at the composition of the flags of the Middle East, they are very, very similar in their makeup. Then we have Mark Verhoeven for the 419, that is Hankook Motorsport, and Jose Garcia for Lion Speed GP. And they have the track pretty much themselves, 6 cars on this 2.626 mile circuit, or 4.25 kilometres, if you prefer to be metric. 16 turns, some of which are named, some of which are not, Joe.
Yeah, it gives us our first opportunity to have a look at this Misano track, doesn't it? 4.1 kilometres. It's, as you mentioned, Nick, it's a track that's been on the MotoGP calendar, and it's renowned as a motorcycle track, and it is going to be interesting. There's a lot of braking and turning here. There's a lot of corners that lull you into a sense of kind of attraction to go deep into the corner. And I think with the flat curbs, there's also going to be massive opportunities for seeing a lot of track limit infringements as Colin White just completes his first flying lap and goes to the top of the timing screens. I think it's going to be an interesting one, Nick, from that perspective of lots of opportunities for overtaking. We've got a lot of hairpins, but we've also got a lot of fast sections which are going to benefit the faster cars. Well,
the big difference, of course, we've done 3 European races so far, Misano, Spa and Portimao, which have all got huge amounts of elevation changes. You know, probably 3 of the most elevatory changed circuits you have in Europe. This place is flat as a pancake. It makes Silverstone look hilly. It is laid on a flat plane. We're only a mile from the sea, so it's a flat plane running into the Adriatic. It is, to go with the flat circuit, they're very flat curves because, of course, motorcyclists need that. And as you've alluded to, Joe, so many of the corners are multi-apexes. I mean, I in a bit of research, I did about 60 laps on iRacing just to get an idea of how it went.
Yeah,
and it's so difficult because you can kind of work out, well, is that apex? No, that apex, and then you find yourself off, and it's it's all about where is the ultimate pace, where is the areas you can pinch a bit of curb from, where as you can see there, the 407 of Pascal Bachmann, they're going right onto the blue on the inside of what I think that was probably the Curva Ducato as he comes up to complete. That may not have been. We'll be getting the corners wrong most of today until we pick up the idea where all the cameras are.
But he's just going into turn 8 there, Nick. That's right. Chia.
So I was 2 corners further on at that point. So that was actually... Right. So that was actually coming out Curva del Rio at the start of the lap. But there are a lot of places, again, when you haven't got those obvious visual identifiers that we're used to, we're going to try and work out exactly which bit's which for the first couple of circuits. Then we'll get you be able to accurately predict where people are on the circuit.
Yeah, not only the drivers learning the track, we are too. on down the back straight and through the fast curve there. Creventic is the name of that one. Turn 11, then turn 12, continues to turn. This is the tricky part of the track through 13, and then turn 14 into Caro is a very, very slow and right-hand hairpin that can easily just sort of taunt you into going far too deep and ruining your lap time. And you can ruin your lap time here without really being too ragged. It's all about smoothness, and I do think track limits is going to be a factor here because of those flat curves, Nick. The track is the sort of track that will just sort of urge you go a little bit quicker. You've been through the corner, and when you come out of the corner, you're thinking, I could have gone a bit deeper there. But then the next time you try it, no, you're off the track on the outside of the turn, keeping up that ever important momentum.
Yeah, I think the other thing, of course, is normally there's a big penalty to going off the track. So you go, no, I'm going to keep myself as much as I can in the limits. And when you get that choice of brake or go off, you go, well, I'll brake. But here you think, I'll just go off, because there's so much runoff that you actually will probably gain in time. You get a little slap on the wrist, and there are a limited number of off tracks you can have before you get a stop and go or a penalty. And certainly, I believe in qualifying, the time will be deleted if it's your fastest time. But watching the cars going around at the moment, they're all been pretty good. I haven't seen them really going all four wheels off the red and white curb. I'm sure that will happen at some point. It is very much, you can expand most of the corners by using a bit of that blue. That's Alia College there. She's just to a little bit of the blue, come in a bit tight and really try to open up the corners. And so many of these corners, because it's a motorcycle circuit, and therefore there's a lot of tightness, there's a lot of kind of doubling back on yourself. Not particularly suited to the dynamics of an actual car. And so it's really interesting to see how these drivers are going to cope with this. And the other thing I'm very interested to see is how it's going to race.
Well, you mentioned there, Nick, over a 12-hour race, you are going to incur some track limit penalties. Eventually, you're going to ping a penalty. Eventually, we're going to see that activity box in the pit lane where people come into the pits and then have to soak up a penalty. But here in qualifying, it's all about not going outside of those limits, because you will have your lap time deleted, and it's quite instant, isn't it? It's the tomorrow when we get into the race, it will be a build-up, but right now we'll see an instant penalty of a deletion of a lap time if you do.
Our first chance to see the BMW M4. Just there's been a new version announced, or an Evo version announced last week at the Spa 24 Hours, which will still be on the previous side. Obviously, the Evo versions are tweaks and tips and things they've learned from the first couple of years around that M4 in GT4 format. The Hankook motorsport team from Belgium is our first. I don't think they've been. I must admit, I wasn't at Spa. So they possibly might have been at Spa, because they are an all-Belgian outfit. It's an all-family outfit. It's Rob, Chris, and Mark Verhaven. So it's a chance for a family outing in your BMW down at Misano.
You mentioned Alia Kolak, Nick, and the flag that she's flying there on the live timing screens, which are available on the 24H website. Would you like to hazard a guess?
No, because I'll make a terrible mistake and look silly.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed it, that one as well. It's Seychelles.
Oh, right.
So Seychelloise is she's Czech, Emirati, and Seychelloise. That's she's got triple nationality.
Ah, right. So I knew she was Emirati, but I also knew she had other elements within her, national makeup. But I didn't know the Seychelles bit, to be honest. And that's even though we've both spoken to her on many occasions. So we've got a chance to nip down to the pits and have a word with Diana.
Just as you were chatting there was a few cars that have come in just for, the 407 Street Art racing car, Aston Martin, came in, and they were just checking tyre pressures, and the car is headed back out. But I just saw CWS Racing also come in doing the same thing. So it feels like, they're taking their time with this strategy, checking everything's right, even though we're in this qualifying session. But there doesn't seem to be any major panics that I can see so far as CWS Racing and the Ginetta go back out. And the 424 line speed has just come in as well. And again, they're just doing some checks, pulling everything down as much as possible, because it's pretty hot out there. But driver's opening his door. Obviously, it's incredibly hot inside that cockpit, so trying to get some air, taking the belts off. So I'm assuming he is going to get out any time soon as the team does some checks around the car.
Yeah, I think you can't change the tyres, you can't fuel the car, you can keep it cool, and obviously the one thing they're going to check is tyre pressures, Joe, isn't it? Because they'll guess the pressure, they go out and they want to see where they're at as they go through this process of using those same tyres for these 3 sessions.
Yeah, and you've already seen we've got Jose Garcia there in the pit and getting out of the car with 3 minutes to go, Nick. Jose is thinking, right, okay, that's perhaps as fast as I can go around this Misano track in whatever time I've got. 1:49.030 is his fastest time. Meanwhile, Pascal Bachmann, who's currently on the provisional pole, the Street Art Racing Aston Martin, that car has been in, the number 407's been in and had some air bled out of the tyres just to optimise the pressure, get the temperatures right, and Pascal is back out there and having another run at it.
I think in many ways, this is actually tends to be the most important of the 3 sessions, because if you're looking at the least experienced, the most amateur driver in the team, it tends to be the widest talent range between the fastest and the slowest. Whereas you move up the levels to the semi-pros and the pros, or the amateurs and the semi-pros, they tend to come together more of their lap time. So this is a chance, really, you've got to really switch an amateur to get a big advantage over everyone else within this 3-section qualifying. So College now.
Down here in the
Sorry, Karen, Di.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realise you were throwing to me. The 44, Jose Garcia's just jumped out of the car with a few minutes to spare for the end of this first part of qualifying. How do you feel that went? Are you satisfied?
I mean, the track is very hot, so we knew it was going to be slower than this morning, but overall I think I'm okay. I tend to be the bronze guy tends to be the weakest guy in the team, so I'm hoping that my silver partners are gonna pick up the slack.
Was it your plan to come in a couple of minutes early?
I had one more lap, but I had a bit of a spin on turn 4, so the lap was ruined anyway. So I figured I'd save the tires for my colleagues.
How hot is it in that cockpit today?
Well, we have air conditioning. It's hot. It's all. You tend to turn it off for the fast laps, but overall it's nice to have a little airco.
And what's your feel for this circuit? You've had some practice time here. How do you find it?
I think it's a great track. It's my first time in Misano. I'm really enjoying it. I think it's a track that suits my style of driving. So far, it's been a lot very easy to get adjusted to, and I'm very happy to be here.
Good to talk to you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Di. And it's always nice to have a bit of air conditioning in your car, isn't it, Joe?
Oh, absolutely. Especially when we've got a track temperature.
When did you fail again?
What did Di say again?
50 something, yeah.
Track temperature.
Yeah. 56.5.
Wow. It's going up. You know what? And the forecast is, of course, for it to be like this tomorrow. If that's the case, then tyre life is going to be a paramount importance, because it is so easy to overheat tyres in when it's half that sort of track temperature. So with 50, did I say 56 there?
Yeah, 56 point something. Right. Yeah, I think it's half in my ear and half in your ear, but she actually did tell everyone it's 56 and a bit. Yeah. So we are now just about at the end of this first section. In fact, there is no seconds to go. 56.5 degrees track temperature. Pascal Bachmann looks like he's going to take the. Is it pole or just provisional leg 1 lead? I suppose what it really is, isn't it? Provisional pole in the GT4 class, the 145 339. It's in TCE. It's Colin White with the 145.7. Now he has a 2-second lead, or 1.5 second lead over Michael Sander in the 111. Porsche Cayman, but that of course there are 2 more sections where that will come together, and whether the averages of the 3 can be brought up. So it's down to Michael Sanders' teammates for that. Colin White is his own teammate, of course, as well as Daniel Morris. And in second place in the GT4s, it is Aliyah College. There'll be a brief break after this first session before the second qualifying goes out for these 6 cars, Joe. Very impressive paint job on that Aston Martin. You can see some close-ups of it. It seems to be it's always got a theme to it. It's hard to tell what the theme is from this distance, but they spent some time making that look pretty. It's called the Street Art Racing car, so it's kind of a bit of a giveaway, isn't it, really? They probably put some sort of a street art style wrap on it.
Yeah, very pretty though, isn't it? Very
Looks
striking.
We'll get Seb with some close-ups perhaps on the grid. We can work out what it is.
Seb will create art alongside the art that's on the car, no doubt. You mentioned there, Nick, checkered flag flying for this first segment. 15 minutes already completed. Colin White just about to cross the line now. Let's see if he can improve on a 1:45.621. He takes the checkered flag and he
Doesn't.
Oh, does he? That I've got that 1:45.621 as his last lap, Nick.
All right.
So that was, yeah,
Okay.
so that was perhaps his last lap.
Unless he matched it exactly. Well, either way, that means he's now got a lead of 1.6 seconds on second place Michael Sander. So this car will now come in, and we'll wait for the second session to get underway here in Misano. Not a track. I've never been to Misano. I don't believe you have either, Joe. I think it's one of these quite well-known tracks which kind of missed in our worldwide travels.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's the first visit for the 24H series, of course, this weekend. A very good addition as well, considering where it is geographically. We are just south of the Rimini tourist area and not far from the Adriatic coast, the track itself. In fact, you can breathe the sea air in from that pit lane. If you were to stand on the tallest building here at Misano, I'm pretty sure you could actually see the Adriatic. So it is a fantastic place to be. It's a fantastic place for our AM drivers to coax their families into, got a race at Misano. How about you come and get some pool time on the Rimini coast? It always makes things easy, doesn't it?
Get down on the beach, why don't you? So those of you who've got pictures will be able to see the street art Aston Martin. It is, well, it's a kind of cornucopia of sort of pastels. It's not really red and yellow and everything else, so it's looking pretty good. And I believe we can nip down to Diana right now.
You certainly can indeed. Pascal Bachmann has just jumped out of the car, taking his helmet off and staying in the shade, which is sensible, Pascal. Satisfied with that job so far?
Well, I have no idea what the time was, but yeah, I had fun. That's the main thing, isn't it? Yeah, so the track was a bit warmer. It's black, the sun is shining on it, so, you know, temperatures are up, but great fun all around. So that's why we're here, having fun.
How happy are you with the balance and the handling of this Aston Martin?
It's beautiful, really. We have Matti as our engineer, and he's doing a great job. I'm enjoying the car really a lot.
Obviously, we've got that first qualifying session, so quickest so far. Obviously, another two qualifying segments to go, but are you optimistic?
Well, you know, it's a 12-hour race. It's my first, but I'm going to venture a guess. I think starting position is not that important. And again, the main thing for us is to have fun. So we do all we can, and we end up where we end up, and it's fine. As long as we do all we can, I'm happy.
Great. Thanks, Pascal. Yeah.
Well, with the right attitude, just do it for fun. Up until then it gets serious and you stop doing it for fun and just spend all your money on it.
I know you mentioned Colin White's going to take the car out for the third segment, Nick. Does he have an option whether or not he stays in the car? And he has two segments, doesn't he, to fulfill? Can he steer in the car with for the second one?
I think you kind of can choose as long as you don't break a rule on qualifying talent, apparently. You can do that. But there you have the qualifying one results, and it was indeed Pascal Bachmann we just heard for in the 407 Street Racing GT4 Aston Martin, 44.9. Second, but also first in his class, was Colin White with that 1:45.621 in the Geneva G55, and then after that we had the Buggy GT4 Mercedes with Ali College on a 1:46.008. So actually they are already 1.1 seconds behind. People enjoying the sun because it is a very, very pleasant time there. I mean, I'm not sure how pleasant it is at 60 degrees in the car or 50 degrees in the pit lane, but if you're hanging around just sitting around watching motor racing in the show, it's fantastic. Qualifying 2 underway, Joe.
Yeah, here we go. Getting straight on with it. These, I mean, 15-minute session, you would think that you would have plenty of time to get out there, put a time in. But you know what? There's an element, all right, we've had plenty of practice time and plenty of track time for all of our drivers, but there's still an element of this is when it counts. and you can't be messy here. And it's so easy to be messy here, though, isn't it? It's so easy. We've mentioned it already, and we're going to continue to mention it, I think, throughout tomorrow as well, about how easy it is to overcook it here and then run track limits. So, you know, these 15-minute sessions, you've probably got about 3, maybe 4 laps proper to have a go at it. So, yeah, we shall see.
Yeah, Tim Niles are there in the 111 Cayman, the TCE Cayman, which has the nomenclature CS rather than RS, so the CS is just the TCE car. And sweeping around the bottom of the circuit there, and I think is he winding up for his first time lap? I think so. He all looks very, very relaxed in there at the moment, but I'm sure it's all systems go, and over the start-finish line he goes, which of course now is clockwise. He's going left to right, so right to left rather than historically left to right. They're going to come into now the Variante del Parco, or as it's also known, the Park Chicane, which is a sharp right and then a left that really tightens back up on you. It's really hard to keep the car into the side, and then it's full power as much as you can get with the grip you've got as you sweep round the bottom of the circuit into the, I don't know how many apexes. It's got 4 apexes for the Curva del Rio, Joe. It's just apex, 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 and choosing which one to go. He's gone tight on the first one. He's gone perhaps a bit too wide on the second one, actually. And the third. And he's got the left-hander, and he goes up to the back straight.
Yeah, the double apex Rio, I mean, it's 2 corners. It's corners 4 and 5. However, we're now out of there and heading towards Quechia. But that double apex turns 4 and 5. It's got a little bit of a straight, but what you do is you just make that one constant arc through turns 4 and then into 5. And then because you've got a left-hand sweep, which is, you try to make an acceleration zone. We'll have a look at it next time round, Nick. But this is what I mean about this track. You need to be very smooth. You need to be able to maximize your exit from corners, but also you've got to be very careful. There's a lot of turning and braking at the same time, and we know how race cars love that.
Oh, they hate it. So he's going down the very fast section out of Curva de Mato, through Curvone, and now into another multiple apex corner, of course, complex of corners really in one kind of pointy bit, which is the Curva de Caro. And you've got a very fast left-hand sweep before you come to the final corner of the circuit, which is interesting, called the Curva Misano, so named after one of the other tracks in Italy. It's a bit like having a Brands corner at Silverstone, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
And that's the lap completed, and he's done it in, let's wait for the final, 1:45.827, which will ping the car up to the top of the table because it's the only car on the table. But to give you an idea, that was 2/10 slower than Colin White's P1 or Sector 1 time, so not bad for an opener there from Tim Nauser. Down the start-finish straight now with the GT4 of Hamoffer in the car now. It is going to be, is it Rob Verhoeven? Yes, Rob Verhoeven is in this one. 419. Let's see how he takes the second part of the Variante del Parco, and then he's going to put the power on all the way down to this Curva del Rio we were talking about, Joe, which is really, really tricky. I was wandering around there in a virtual car going, which pit, which corner, no, not quite sure. And then you power back out of this, very short straight before a tight left-hander, and then you go up what I call the back straight before you come to Curva Cuerca. Now Cuerca is another one because it looks like it's like a 90 degree, and then it isn't a 90 degree, and it's not a 180 either, it's like a 160, but it keeps on tightening. We've now switched our attentions to the 416, it's David Voreski in the Buggylar AM GT4.
So currently 6th, that number 416, David Vasecki, out in the car, putting in purple sector times through 1 and 2 now. So we are about to see just what sort of time this car can put in, just coming out the final turn now. And Vasecki across the line, a 1:45.4, gives that car an average of a 1:45.7 and puts it second in the order. It's second behind the number 407, the Street Art Racing Aston, still at the top of the timing screen, Yahid Fazal Karim at the wheel of the car, and a purple sector 2 for Karim as we continue. TCE, the TCX class, 2 cars in that TCX class, both cars in the touring car endurance part of this race. and it's Colin White in the Ginetta that's currently the quickest. And Colin White did stay in the car, so there's that question answered, Nick.
Yeah, you can do,
you can do them back to
two
back.
goes any way you want to. So Jahed Fazil Karim came over that one in a 1:46.1, so he was about best part of 3/4 seconds faster than he had been. Still 7/10 slower than David Vrzecki, but it didn't really matter because in the first sector they were 1.1 seconds faster. So this is how the average is working out. The average of the two is putting this car, whilst faster in this section, with Vrzecki driving it, is slower overall over 2 sections than the 407 Aston Martin of currently Jahed Fazil Karim. This is how this 3-section works, and the third one will come in and throw the whole thing under completely out. And certainly when we get to the second set of qualifying, we're going to see in about an hour, half an hour, and an hour's time, which is the GT3s. That third driver often completely changes the order.
Yeah, well, this is what I like about this multi-driver qualifying format. You can, in some series, Nick, if you're the AM driver, you kind of get forgotten about in qualifying. Well, in the 24 series, you actually contribute. You actually make a contribution to this, to the effort going forward, to the effort of putting the car on the grid and maximising your grid position for the start of the race tomorrow morning. So I really do like it. It's a team effort. It's also a team effort, of course, from the crew. We will talk about the crews coming into play tomorrow, no doubt. 12 hours in this heat, Nick.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be attrition, isn't it? It's going to be all about attrition.
I think it's going to be shorter stints. We're not going to see anyone doing Ironman, perhaps going the full 2 hours, maybe more of a challenge. Not we've got air conditioning in the car, of course. It'd be a lovely little sunny summer's afternoon drive, won't it? So we did very briefly there. We saw the 416 move the top of the aggregate timing sheet because with the 1:44.785, the fastest lap we've seen so far. For a GT4, but then immediately an improvement by Jahed Fazil Karim moved the 407 Aston Martin back to the top of the again. The aggregate times about 2/10 difference, so that's the aggregate time is a 2/10 advantage to the Aston, and this 419 is currently in third in class, fourth overall this qualifying session. But their aggregate time, well, it isn't that bad. They're only about 4/10 off Boogie Ra in the 416 in second, and they are about 6/10 off the Aston Martin. So, the thing is, though, you have to remember that if you are 6/10 behind at the end of 2 sections, you have to be 1.2 seconds faster to make that up in section 3. So it's not, you haven't got to make up 6/10, you've got to make up double that because it's already been aggregated and divided by 2. So the bigger gaps need to be made up, and it's been interesting to see how that works itself out as we are now down to, we've still got 5 minutes of this session to go, so there's plenty of time. But of course, there is a reason for not pounding around again, but trying to get that done quickly. There's 2 reasons. First reason, obviously, is you are using that same set of tyres again and again and again. And on this track, even with the durability of the Hankooks, there's going to be some degradation. The other thing is, the more laps you decide to do, Joe, the more fuel you've got to put in.
Yeah, that's another factor. But you've got to fuel. You're not allowed to refuel the cars between these segments, Nick. So you're going to fuel the car for just under the hour. What with the out laps and the in laps. So that's the other thing. You start on the brand new set. You're not optimized with regards to how heavy the car is. You start with a brand new set of Hankooks and with a full tank of fuel.
Well, would you have a full tank of fuel? That's the point. I mean, we all know that weight is the enemy of performance. If you could say, right, if you can do that in 3 laps, then we can run like 7 minutes in the session, and then you could actually have half the amount of fuel everyone else and have like a 5, 10, 15 kilogram advantage the whole time round.
You've been far too complicated now, mate.
See, you're the team manager. You should have thought all this through. I'm just some bloke.
I think you wouldn't overthink it, Nick. I think you would just, fuel it for the amount of laps that you're going to projected that you're going to do, and just go for it. We've got some track infringements, track limit
really?
infringements
That's a surprise.
coming through. Yeah, massive surprise and a bit of a shocker here. The number 111 has had their time, Tim Neuser, in the SR Motorsport Porsche 718 Cayman. That's had 2 lap times disallowed. The other car that's been penalised, the 424, that's Dennis Bond, and that's the Lion Speed Porsche. That car currently at the bottom of the he did get that car up to about 4th, I think, but then lost the time to Dennis Bond.
So in they come. The fact that they are both saying F for fuel makes me think the fuel station is at pit entry. We'll confirm that with the pit lane team Well, it's not really important today. We'll confirm it tomorrow, I think, where the fuel stations are and how many pumps they have, because don't forget you are refueling from a standard pump in the Creventic series. 12 hours straight through, Joe, tomorrow. That's not always the case. We're used to our 12 hours being split, often weird ways, 5.5, 6.5, 4 and 8, 3 and 9. But 12 hours straight through, it's a very rare occurrence for us, isn't it?
Well, a little bit disappointing, really, because, you know, with being on the Rimini coast, it would have been very civilised, wouldn't it? To have had a break for dinner down on the seashore of the Adriatic. However, the challenge is to plug away, because, you know, the teams will be up at the crack of dawn, well, not perhaps the crack of dawn, but very soon after dawn, and they'll be going almost till midnight by the time we get things packed away. So a very long day. But that's the challenge, isn't it? Hashtag this is endurance. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that they will get some running in the dark, because the race is scheduled to end at 10 and 10 p.m. local time, which is obviously 9 p.m. in the UK. And that, I'm pretty sure, given the fact we're quite a bit further of that plus 1 hour, we're also quite a bit further to the east, means that I think they're going to have quite a bit of time in the dark.
Yeah, I think so. We'll check on the sunset times for tomorrow morning and let everyone know. We've got, coming up to that 2-minute bell that we talk about, Nick, 2 minutes with 3 cars already calling their session or bringing their session to an end. David Vasecki in the Bugera ZM Racing Mercedes, that car currently second. David calling it a day and coming into the pits. Tim Neuser, he's had enough of incurring penalties and having lap times disallowed in the 111. That's the SR Motorsport Porsche. They're in the pits calling it a day, as is Dennis Bonn, the number 424. I think that's Di down in the pits. Let's head down to Di. I think she's with David Vasecki now. Di?
I am indeed. Joe, thank you so much. David, you've just been out for that second qualifying session. What did you find?
Yeah, it was so nice. It's I was a little bit scared about the weather because it's very hot. So I would like to save the tires for the Adam for the third driver. So it was like I was surprising how was good grip. So for me it was so nice, and we will see how we will have the average.
Is this your first time in Misano?
No. I was here in a very long time. It was still short circuit and different the way it was.
So do you prefer the changes then? If you were here with the circuit before to now, how would you describe it?
New circuit is for me much more fun. It's like longer, much more the corners, more fun. So I think it was a very good change.
So what's key at this point of qualifying for you as a team?
You know, we concentrate for very good qualify time, but it's for 12 hours. It's like it's not best the key or what it's key will be the race. It's like the tire management and everything, like keep the fat but don't destroy the tires, survive this hot weather. So it will be, this is only like the fun for the drivers, like they can push, but tomorrow it will be started.
Important to learn as much as possible.
Yes.
Thank you very much, David.
Okay, thank you.
Very confident. We have a problem for the 407. Smoking across start finish looks like a puncture on the rear left, doesn't it? Or it's either puncture or suspension failure on the rear left. And of course, if it's a puncture, they're out because you can't change tyres, Joe.
So
they'll be
I'm
out
not
of
sure
qualifying.
about this.
No, it is. It is. I've seen. Well, unless it's changed, that's been the rule in the past.
Force majeure.
I don't think that comes into it, to be honest.
I'm not. Well, it's a
Let's
one
find
to
out.
die.
Let's find out whether it's force majeure or you're out, because it's one of the two. That's so far over. It looks like both the tyres on the left-hand side have gone.
Well, remember that we've still got one 15-minute segment to go before they've completed their qualifying, and if this could be
What is it, front
that
left?
this car will start at the back.
Okay,
after,
that rear wheel seems to have way too much camber on it. Looking at it, I don't know what you think about that, but I could be wrong.
I'm unable to see that. I think that might be a suspension.
Has gone. It's lost the rear left suspension. That is a suspension failure, which theoretically could be fixed, but unlikely in 4 minutes. So it's not a puncture; it's a suspension failure on the rear left.
Yeah, it's Jahid Fazal Karim at the wheel of the 407. Now, this is the Street Art Racing Aston Martin that had been heading the timing screens for some time. it's just relinquished that overall time. It's still the fastest GT4 car in this qualifying phase. However, top of the timing screens has gone CWS Engineering's Colin White.
Well, it says Daniel Morris now.
It says Daniel Morris now. Yeah, that's just changed. So it was Daniel Morris.
Someone forgot
it was
to
saying Colin White, not my eyes.
Oh, no, you're right. Someone forgot to change the driver indicator. They remembered right at the last minute. But yes, this is bad news for 407. All right, look, they've got a brand new shock there to try and replace the, the one that's apparently broken. It isn't necessary. It is most likely to be the shock to collapse in that very sort of way. It's not wobbling as such. It's gone straight down, though it's got no spring or no shock. But they're going to have to try and do this in a couple of minutes and then get out for section 3. And they are currently in pole for GT4.
Well, we've got Binksy there waiting. I'm sure that's a torque wrench I see in her hand. She might have a job. She might have been a recruiter for a job there.
Yeah, I mean, let's pass down to Diana to see what tells us what's going on.
Yeah, well, I've lost my moment, unfortunately, because the car just came in as we were chatting. So the team manager there needs to speak to the driver and have a look around the car. But yes, you're absolutely right. There's obviously damage at the rear. But the team are working on the car, and they've taken the wheels off in the pit lane on the pit apron. And they're doing some work at the back. So, you know, I need to speak to the team manager, really, just to find out. Obviously, drivers out, driver seats out. They look like they're, you know, going through the motions of preparing to put the next driver in the car. But I can't see that happening at the moment. Let me see if I can grab Pascal, actually, who's still standing here. Pascal, can we have a quick word? Yeah, he's just coming to join me, so just bear with me, because he was just chatting to his other driver. Pascal, we can obviously see there's some damage to the rear. Is it suspension?
Yeah, we're just adding a bit of suspense for fun, right?
You said you wanted some fun.
Yeah, we have it. We had the same issue on day one, actually. I broke the other suspension on the other side. We don't know. And in Portimao earlier this year, driving the same car, we had the right rear go brake exactly the same way. But the team is going to fix it. Julia is boarding the car and is going to smack a time, and it's going to work.
Are you able to do these repairs out here with take the wheels off in the pit lane during qualifying? Does that have any implication?
You know, I'm a driver. I have no idea about regulations.
Okay, well, you're being watched at the moment, so we'll see what happens with that. But obviously, you're carrying on and doing what you can.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. We do what we can, you know, that's it. Yeah, but I have faith. The team is going to do it. They're going to pull it off.
Thank you so much. Thanks. I can see scrutineering while we're standing here, actually, guys. If you stay with me, I'll just have a little word with scrutineering team. Yes. We just want a bit of an update. We were debating, and we think that they possibly can't do repairs and change tyres during the live qualifying session.
They may not replace them, only in case of damage. So in this case, it is damage. The team decided to remain the session with this tyre. It's up to them.
Oh, so they can carry on with the repairs as long as they put the same tyres back on?
Exactly. That's the rule.
I can see you're watching over them just to see what they're doing. Looks like they're going to be a few minutes longer. They're trying to get back out.
Yeah, for sure. As long as they put the same tyre back on, then it's okay, according to regulations. So.
Okay, thanks, very much. That was Mark Steinveld there, who's one of the scrutineers here watching proceedings down here in the pit lane.
Thank you, Diana. So it's all go. They've got a couple of minutes to sort that one out. So here we have the results after 2 sections. It was actually just the individual non-overall. I think actually that's the individual non-overall, isn't it? Yes, 1:45.151 was. And that is the average. That is the average. There's not the time that Daniel Morris got. That's the average for the G55. 1:78, 1:45.151. As you can see, the 407 Street Arts racing car is in second. They've got some issues, obviously. And hopefully get out for the third part. And it's now the BMW of Hankook Motorsport in third. Boogie Ra dropped down to fourth, but there's nothing in it. As you can see, there's like 100th of a second between Boogie Ra and Hankook. So that's absolutely within the remit of the drivers to sort out. Then SR Motorsport in the Cayman CS, who are the second of the TCEs. And then, of course, we have the Line Speed GP just off the back at the moment, but it is just qualifying.
Session 3, or segment 3 I should say, Nick, is underway. We've got cars that are out, and we didn't speak about Colin White's teammate because the car was shown to have Colin White in it, but Daniel Morris, he is the driver that's put the number 178, the CWS engineer Ginetta. It's a G55 model that they have out here at Misano. And that, it was Daniel who put the car on the provisional pole. Still 1 15-minute segment to go, so anything can happen. Christopher Hoyven is out in the 419, the 419 Hankook Motorsport BMW M4. This is the GT4 spec car. They're in third overall, and the only out of 3 cars that have taken to the track, Wilhelm Kuhn in the 111, the SR Motorsport Porsche. Only 3 cars out on the track at the moment, the 178, the 419 and the 111. That's a Ginetta, a BMW. We've been joined by Adam Lacko, who takes out the Bugera Mercedes out on the track, the 416. Currently 4th at the moment, 3rd in the GT4 class, 4th overall. And we'll be seeing that because Colin White's Ginetta with Daniel Morris is currently at the top of the screen.
Yep, so it is almost certainly Colin White. Let's not jump to conclusions because it may change later on. So Colin, stalwart now really of the Creventic series with this Ginetta. Selection of partners depending where he is in the world and in the country, as he just locks a rear right brake there. I think that was going into Curva del Rio, wasn't it, at the start of the lap. Still waiting to see. So far Street Art Racing have not got out again. Lion Speed haven't gone out. The others are actually out, and so it's Christopher Hoven in the 419, Adam Lacko in the 416. That's the BMW and the Mercedes, who are within 100th of a second of each other. So it's pretty likely whoever's quickest out of that is going to claim second. And of course, if the Aston doesn't get out, they'll claim pole for GT4.
We'll see. Plenty of time for these drivers to get a go while the cars continue to circulate. Still, we've not seen.
Clarify that for you.
Yeah, thank you, Di. That was clarified that it was Daniel Morris in the car, and now we've got Colin White. We are still awaiting the Street Art Racing Aston Martin that's having that suspension checked and rebuilt after that failure. We've got 11 minutes, just coming up to 11 minutes still to run, so still plenty of time for the third and final driver in that number 407 Aston to get out there and perhaps put times in. Colin's just gone through Sector 1 and put up a purple time. He's just put up a purple time in Sector 2 as well, as we have a change at the top of the screen. The BMW now goes to the top of the screen. Christopher Hoyven in the 419, the Hankook Motorsport BMW goes to the top of the screen with an average time of a 1:45.007. Now, average time, that's a full 7/10 of a second quicker than the CWS car in second. So it really is getting interesting now.
Well, of course,
1:44.5, not quite as fast as we saw in the second segment. So we've still got a bit of time in that BMW, Nick.
Oh, of course, this is the big battle, isn't it? It's Christopher Hoven in the BMW against Adam Lacko in the Mercedes, because they were effectively after 2 sections, as near it doesn't matter, on the same time. So whoever goes fast in his third section will be ahead of the other, and with the issues we have with the Aston Martin, they actually are out. The Aston Martin is out with Julian Dallas, so a great work there to, in fairness, replacing a shock absorber actually isn't the hardest thing of all, especially if this spring is built into it and the coil over. It's, what is it, three bolts sometimes will get it off in a racing car, so if it was that simple break and nothing else has happened, it should be pretty easy. Normally, and obviously the team manager next to me will be able to confirm this. Normally, you will have that already preset with any adjustments you've made to have the same bump and rebound settings on that very expensive Olin shock absorber. Hopefully, it'll feel the same as the one it took off.
We'll see, Nick. Time ticking by very quickly, already down to 9 minutes as the Adam Lacko driven 416 goes to second. The Bugera car, the Mercedes AMG GT4, has gone to second place with an average time of a 1:45.357, and that was achieved by a 1:45.542 from Adam Lacko. Problems for the Ginetta.
Yeah, it doesn't like it looks like it's just gone off by the looks of it. I don't think it's because there's no pool of smoke. Though there is a couple of black lines near the rear end of the car. It's rolling forward, so that may just have been a over-optimistic bit of a attempt to make that last corner. That's Curvin Misano just before start-finish where Colin White's gone off. Down the main straight now. Unfortunately, it's going to ruin his next lap as well because he won't get up to full speed to cross the line. Well, he's shaking stuff out. I don't think he's got any gravel. Maybe he's actually run out of fuel, which would be a bit of an embarrassment. Because of the shaking, fuel pickup, of course, can be an issue. But he's not going to be able to do a lap at full racing speeds if he's short of fuel now, Joe.
Yeah, now then, there's that question answered. Nick, you were asking me as a team manager how I'd fuel my car. We certainly know what Colin White's done. He's fueled it with the need for another 8 minutes of fuel in the car. And if that is a fuel tank issue or whether it's a fuel pressure issue. Now, if we've run out of fuel through lack of fuel in the tank, or if there is plenty of fuel in the tank and you kind of weigh the fuel into the car, you I can't remember ever working for a race team that kind of measures fuel by litres. It's fuel by kilograms, and a litre of fuel weighs 0.7 of a kilogram, and it's kilograms per lap. That's how you gauge how much fuel you're going to need for however long the session is. So Colin, I think that's really shaving it, isn't it? With he was beginning to splutter there with the 8 minutes still on the clock, so that really is shaving it.
Yeah, he did get a third lap in, so they have got a lap in the third section in, so they will be counted as official qualifiers. It does appear that the Lion Speed team is a little bit slower. They have got Patrick Kolb in the car now, so that actually puts a bit of speed into it, but they've got a long way to catch up. Their average is William Kuhn in the car, not Patrick Kolb. I've had the wrong Cayman. They've William Kuhn in the car, but their average is almost 1.7 seconds slower than Colin, so they would have to go 5 seconds faster, no, 4 seconds faster to make it up again. So, you know, it's going to be a tall order. So even if Colin can't do another fast lap, I think he's secured the TCX pole. So let's find out more about what's going on with that Ginetta with Di.
Having a chat with the team and discussing what was going on, and it was Dan that was in for the qualifying 2 session, put in some good times there. What's going on now, though?
Yeah, I think Colin's trying to catch up with my time and add a little off at the last corner. So yeah, it's a fast corner, it's a fast left-hander. So you really need to bring in gently and get on the pair early. But I think he's just had a bit too quick into the corner and he's had a little moment.
So it's not a fuel issue?
No, but it is. We are quite low on fuel. It was flashing at me, giving me warning signs when I was out there. But it's just enough, you know. You fill it up just enough, keep the car light. But yeah, it's a good track. It's hot, but yeah, it's some ballsy corners. So you really have to keep pushing. I think he's trying to catch up with my time. So I'll have a little laugh with him later about that. He won't like it.
I'm going to tell him that you said that when I see him. Well, we know Colin well, and we know... Oops, I'm about to fall over. We know that he knows how to drag every inch out of this car. He knows it very, very well. We've seen him over the years do some incredible things.
Oh, yeah, he's developed this car. It's really set up for him, and thankfully for me, he's that setup suits me just fine as well. It's a really balanced setup. You know, it turns in nicely, and it's not too loose at the back, but... yeah, I think he's finding it a bit loose at the moment, where I'm okay with that. So yeah, it's a good setup, and yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, excellent. Well, we've still got a little bit of qualifying to go, but I guess that's your qualifying day over.
Yeah, there's only a couple of minutes left now. There's no even point going back out. So I think we've done enough that we need to get done. Obviously, we're going to be class pole. It would have been nice to be pole over the GT4s as well, but yeah, I'm happy with that. Here he is. Look at him.
There he is. Thumbs up. He's running off. We'll let him catch his breath for the moment, though. Thanks very much, Dan.
Thank you, Di. Very nifty footwork there, as you were almost fell over on that bit of guttering, but no, not quite. The great didn't take her out. Marvellous. Absolutely die for Strictly Come Dancing next year, I'd say, Joe.
Yeah, and catching your breath being the optimum, I think, in this heat. I know the cars run air-con, but we're still wrapped up in fireproof underwear, 3 layers of Nomex, thick fire suit, helmet, balaclavas. This is the sort of weather that there are people not so far away, Nick, clad in just shorts and bikini and lying by a pool. And all of our crews having to not necessarily wear fireproof, but certainly the drivers have to. And it's just part of the challenge, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
No air Colin the Ginetta as well, remember. So Colin, yeah, he's never been any kind of slouch, and he's always up for the challenge. And the challenge of hashtag this is endurance here in the 24H series it's part of what the challenge is, isn't it? It's dealing with the physicality of the job in hand as a driver.
Yeah. So they've had to give up on their dream, which would be fastest overall in this session, which is sad, but they will also be fastest in the TCX and TCX, because they were built that beat the 111. Moving across to the top of the tables, and it is actually Chris Verhoeven in the 419 Hankook Motorsport car, the BMW, who's managed to currently have the aggregate lead by about a tenth of a second from Julian Dallas. Adam Lacko is back another half a second, so he's not really put in a fast enough time in that Bugidar car, the Mercedes. So it's currently BMW from Aston from Mercedes. There's about 2.5 minutes to go. The only driver setting a faster time is the man already ahead, which is Chris Verhoeven. He set a 1:43.811, which was his fast lap last time round. And their average is 600ths faster than Julian Darras. So Julian Darras did a 1:44.1. If he can do a 1:43.9, he will actually take the average of street art racing faster than the average of Hankook Motorsport. So it's when motorsport becomes advanced maths, this is.
Yes. We need a mathematician. However, he's sat there in the red Camel Jordan's pit at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah.
Our usual resident mathematician. But yeah, I mean, interesting. We've got Julian Darras, who's due past the pits any moment now. The Aston Martin Vantage coming out in anger, I think, after that problem with the suspension. Julian Darras just coming out of the final turn as he crossed the line again, Nick. I've lost track of him, where he is on the track. Still in second there, and no improvement on a lap time with a 1:44.4, so he was slightly off the pace there that time by. He's back out and circulating. Meanwhile, the black and red number 419 currently on the provisional pole for GT4, and Chris Verhoeven just easing off the gas a little bit. A 43.9 was his last lap. Their average is still a 44.7, just about a tenth of a second. Just about a tenth of a second in it at the moment. 1:44.8 for the Julian Darras driven Aston Martin. The Mercedes of Bagheera Racing, they're on a 45.3 average, and then a 45.7 average for the now pit-bound Colin White, who's in, and their qualifying is done.
Yep, they are in. We are now with about 38 seconds to go. We're going to be crowning our overall TCE and GT4 winner quite soon. But winner, well, pole position sitter. They get to sit behind those lovely inflatable, pole positioning class. And it does look like Chris Verhoeven's going to get it, because we're not seeing any fast lap times here from Julian Dallas at the moment, Joe. So it's going to be very much I think it's going to be a BMW ahead of Aston Martin, ahead of Mercedes, and then ahead of Porsche.
Isn't that great though? BMW, Aston, Mercedes, Ginetta, Porsche. We may only have 6 cars in the GT4 and the TCX classes, but we are represented by 5 manufacturers. Okay, that's great. I mean, we like that. I mean, these are, remember, we've still got another 21 cars that will come out to qualify. As the checkered flag flies, Nick, we've got our provisional grid becoming our actual grid for GT4 and TCX.
Could you do it for me? I'm missing pictures at the moment, Joe.
Well, we've had that session now completed, all 3 segments, qualifying 3, the checkered flag flies, and with average times, basically we go off the times that an average of the 3 sections of qualifying. 3 drivers, or in the case of the CWS Engineering Ginetta, 2 drivers, Colin and Dan Morris, sharing the driving in the Ginetta. They go quickest in TCX, 4th overall, as the just waiting for the cars to come round to complete the checkered flag lap. Patrick Kolb, 5th overall in the Lion Speed Porsche. His checkered flag flies, and a 46.8 is his average time for 5th. 6th for Wilhelm Kuhn, a 47.1 puts him in 6th place, but 2nd in TCX. And then into the pits has come Chris Verhoeven. He has taken the Hannover Motorsport BMW M4 GT4 across the line and into the pits, and he will be on pole position unless, of course, Julian Darras can make any kind of impression here as the checkered flag flies for Chris Verhoeven. And that car showing in the pits at the moment, but that car did not achieve a quicker lap time. A 44.1 was his last ditch effort, not quite enough, and it was so close, Nick, at the end with regards to the average lap times. On the pole position then, that Aston Martin, the number 407, did indeed do it, as my timing screen just updates itself and puts him at the top of the screen. At the moment, though, we've got the BMW showing quickest with the Hannover Motorsport GT4 144.773, a 144.834. Remember that this is an average, and it is the Street Art Racing car that is in 2nd. Faisal Karim, Pascal Bachmann and Julian Darras, the drivers in that car. The Bagheera ZM Racing Mercedes, 3rd in GT4, 3rd overall, with a 45.201 their average. And then we've got the first of the TCX cars, 4th overall in this section. It's the CWS Engineering Ginetta of Colin White and Daniel Morris. The 46.871 was their average. And then the 2 Porsches, the 718 Caymans. The Lion Speed car in the GT4 class, that car has qualified 5th with a 145.388. And then the final qualifier, which is actually being put in the TCX class, and it's the Type 982 718 Cayman GT4 for a SR Motorsport. Their time of 147.127 average.
So we are now at the end of the first run of qualifying. That is the GTEs all done and dusted, Joe, which means we have a very brief sojourn. So the pole sitter overall for the... So it ended up being Julian Darras in the 407 who's taken the pole in the Street Art Racing Aston Martin. So despite their issues, they still got the pole in that section, which is well achieved.
I think what happened, Nick, is that changed right at the very end there. As we were going through the rundown, the pole position actually changed and went to the Aston Martin with a latch ditch effort of a 143.945. It was enough to give them a 144.756, and that was just a fraction quicker than the Hannover Motorsport BMW, which had an average time of 144.773. And I think Di is down there with the pole position team, is she?
I think she's just getting down at the moment, Di. Yeah, so the point about it, and Di is with them.
I am with the team, but I'm actually just about to get squashed. So bear with me a second, and hopefully I won't get too squashed as the 407 gets wheeled back into the garage. Julian Darras is with me now. He was out on that Q3 session. Julian, a great job by yourself and the team to set the quickest provisional time for the qualifying session.
Yeah, thank you. The car was good. I think we have a good average pace with all the guys, so I'm really happy. They repaired the car, so a big thanks for them. We repaired the car for the 3rd quali.
Yeah, you had some issues after the 2nd qualifying session there, didn't you? And the team seemed to resolve that pretty quickly.
Yeah, they changed the suspension quite quickly, so really good, really nice, really happy.
Well, a good start to the weekend for you.
What?
A great start to the weekend for you.
Yeah, great start for the weekend, and really happy for everybody there.
We've got to say, the livery on this car is pretty spectacular.
Yeah, it's quite nice.
Very colourful.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you.
So a great performance there by the Street Art Aston Martin, seeing off rivals from BMW, Mercedes and Porsche, just like any other sports car racing. All the teams are representative, and that is the result and brings to the end of qualifying 3 in the first part of the qualifying section, which of course we have coming up very soon. We have qualifying for GT3, GTX and 992. Well, that was a very interesting, if not, we weren't packed with cars. We had an interesting mix and match for the part 1. But now we're going to get to part 2, Joe, which is the GT3, GTX and 992 qualifying. This is a much more packed grid of cars and much more, I think, competitive. We've got 11 GT3s, 1 GTX and 9 992 cars. So it's going to be a bit more of a bun fight, Joe.
Yeah, we are indeed promised that, Nick. At the 992 class, always one of perhaps the most competitive classes in the 24H series. 11 GT3 cars. We've got the 701. That's the Vortex. That's in the GTX class and is the only car in the GTX class. However, that does not detract from the fact that we will follow the dramas and the soap opera that is the Vortex behind the Vortex garage door, because it's the gift that keeps on giving, isn't it, Nick? The Vortex team, they keep plugging away. If that team isn't the very essence of #ThisIsEndurance, I don't know what is. I don't know what that means if they're not.
Absolutely, and I think they've won the spirit of the race most times they've been out there. Okay, we are about to get underway with the GT3 and the 992 and the GTX qualifying, and down in the pit lane in a weird role reversal, it's me in commentary handing down to John in the pit lane.
Well, you are handing down to John, but to me first, I was going to hand over to him as he's been waiting patiently in the heat, in the sunshine. John Heinhoff, great to see you back down here in the pit lane. Guess you're looking forward to this session now.
I started in the pit lane and I love being in the pit lane. Seb, step forward a second so you don't get knocked over by the Chrome car that's coming out. Di's going to go and throw herself into a paddling pool out at the back of the pits, of which there are legion at the moment, as we're getting ready for another 3 times 15-minute session. Out goes the 967 Porsche just behind me, the HRT car heading down pit lane. The Krone Aviation car has been polished just off to my right to Seb's left there, and it is looking an absolute picture. And that is Tracy Krone who's behind the wheel of the car. And I was out around the circuit earlier on today, and you know how some circuits look very, very flat. Not tall at all, just flat. But television does that to circuits. Well, Nick, as the green flag goes, is being thrown out now and we're rolling for the first 15-minute session, this track is as flat as it looks on television, perhaps even flatter, and it has been causing some problems for particularly the amateur drivers who haven't been here before, because there are very few. Just let that Porsche engine disappear. It's considered bad luck to talk over a flat 6, apparently. It is very difficult to pick out your braking points and your reference points in various parts of this circuit. We have had Creventic here before, but not with a full multi-class race. The TCE Championship came here in 2017. I've spoken to 1 or 2 drivers, including Klaus Graf, who's raced here before in a variety of other European Championship GT3 events. And I'm very interested to see how this session goes with more cars on the track, and that's as a prelude to the multi-class racing. It's hot, it's very hot, the Hankook tyres are working really hard. The sun has come round into the pit lane, so what you'll see when we get people working in the pit lane is nothing at all. Everybody's going back into the garages in order to get out of sunshine. Off and running for part 1 of 3. 1 set of Hankook tyres, 1 load of fuel, get the calculations right, and then get out there, slap the driver around a little bit, and see what sort of times they can do.
Thanks, John. John Hindhoff, live from the pit lane. Now, the point he made about the track being incredibly flat and therefore a lack of reference point isn't helped, of course, Joe, by these multi-apex corners. They have at least 3 places in Curva del Rio, Curva Tremonto, and then Curva del Caro. It is a very tricky yet very flat track.
And this is where you can go horribly wrong, Nick, because if it's got a flow to it, hasn't it? And we've mentioned there is a section through curves 11, 12 and 13 into the very tight hairpin at turn 14, which is called Caro. It's a turning and braking entry through 13, and some of these cars are building up speed flat out through Curvone, which is turn 11, which is a kink. It's not really a turn at all. Turn 12 is a kink. It's flat out. And then 13, is it flat out, or do you lift and do you start taking speed off the car to have for that heavy braking area, which is for the turn 14 Caro hairpin? It's a track that is very technical. It's a track that will reward smoothness, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's one of those tracks, I think, where it's not a track you learn in 3 laps. You know, because you have to kind of really work out exactly how the corners flow together and which apex you need to go around the middle of, which apex you need to hit, and which bit of curb you need to take. Without those ability to get the bearings from various topographical markers, my guess is it takes longer, even for very professional drivers, to learn the ultimate way around in some other circuits.
Well, it should take, they say that you should learn a track in 5 laps. How many laps did it take you to learn this on iRacing?
About
Nick?
35, I think. About that.
It took me longer than normal. It took me about 7.
I knew where it went. John, to you.
Down in the Krone Aviation, Krone Racing garage with Philip Hamprecht, we've been talking about this track and how difficult it is to learn. It's very flat. There's a lot of complex corners in terms of multiple apexes. How's it been to drive?
It's really nice to drive. I know this track already from past events. I did a lot of Formula cars here. It's first time for Nick and Tracy. It's not an easy track. It's quite tight. I think it's what's good or what's easy to learn about is because there's no elevation change, right? So it's quite flat. You can see everything quite nicely. But overall, I think it's in the medium kind of base. It's not super difficult. It's not super easy. You know, it's in between, I would say.
How much of the curbs are you having to use, and how are you walking that track limits line?
It's a thin line, like always. Like in every track, you have corners where the curbs are very flat. You can use a lot. You also have quite high curbs here where you could potentially damage the tire. Also a lot of long, quick corners, which is really stressful on the tire. But I would say we're always on a limit. So you're extracting everything using the maximum track, and it's no different here.
What have you told Tracy? Where's he got to concentrate on? Where's the most time to be made up round here, Philip?
I think the most important thing we've told him for qualifying is you have to put all your sectors together, right? So, I mean, if you're quick in Sector 1 and in Sector 3, but you have an awful one in Sector 2, it's no good. So I think it's important for him to put everything together, just as it is for Nick and me, to put everything together, and then we can produce a nice starting position for tomorrow.
Are you going last?
I'm going last, yeah.
So you get the best of the fuel, because the car's lightest, but the worst of the tyres, mate.
Exactly. So it's a difficult job, but it's the same for everybody in the last quali. So trying to extract the maximum from the car.
Yeah, you've got the experience at the track. You shouldn't have said that. You should have said, "Oh, I don't know the track. I don't know the track."
I don't know the track.
Thanks, man. There you go, Nick. That's the way to do it. Put all the sectors together. Practice that on iRacing tonight.
Well, apparently the way to do it is to be there before, actually. That seems to be the obvious response. If you've actually been there before, you've got more of a chance. Interestingly, you mentioned about the single-seaters. The lap record is held by a Formula Renault 3.5 at 120.8. Just to give you an idea, the fastest lap we have currently is a 134.8. That's its latest version. F1, F2 have never, or modern F2 and modern F1 have never raced this circuit so far. Obviously, that's so the fastest cars they've had around here, the Formula Renault 3.5. Had some boss racing, but they weren't quicker than those Formula Renault 3.5s, Joe.
So just Nick, just tell me that lap time again, will you, from the, did you say Formula Renault 3.5?
Yeah.
Which is a...
120.78.
128?
120.78.
Ah, right, sorry. I thought you said 128. I couldn't hear over the engine noise. A little bit of a spin from the number 69 Lamborghini. That's currently down the order somewhat in 6th. Tim Muller just getting down the inside of a slower piece of traffic and then getting offline. He's rejoined, no harm, no foul, no damage. Tim Muller at the wheel of that car. It's the RD Sign Salulai Racing Lamborghini, and I think he's going to continue that. Just getting back to that, Nick, a 1 minute 20, that's 14 seconds quicker. But those cars were absolute fireworks, weren't they? The single-seater V8s, very loud, very visceral single-seater racing in that era.
Yeah, I mean, it's
down that list on the Wikipedia page, Nick. I can't because I've got no connectivity here in the pit lane. But if you look down there, you'll see some GT3 and some TCR times. We haven't got any TCR cars here. But if there's some GT3 and some GT4 times there, and I have a strong suspicion that when I was looking this up the other day, I've got a feeling that one of the lap record holders is here this weekend because I think he's in one of our cars. But you can probably have a look at the GT3 and GT4 lap records that were set, albeit with a different tyre manufacturer, it should be said, I think last year or the year before.
I will check for you because I have that is the ability I do have. I do believe actually the GT3 record, which was set by Raffaele Marcello actually in 2022 at a 1:31.939 is the GT3 record. I think we'll probably get close, but not quite there. The tyres are a bit harder, the Hankooks. And the record for GT4 is a 1:40.9 by Luca Ibanez, who set that in the European GT4 round this year in a Mercedes AMG GT4, John. So,
yeah, it's and again, different tyre manufacturers being involved in those series, Nick, and with our times now beginning to come down, 138, 134, sorry, 130 is the last lap behind. Passed for Maxime Partel. He's in the number 11. That car was showing to have Alex Prince in the car very early on, so the driver ID switch has been perhaps rectified, and it is actually Maximilian Partel at the wheel of the Hofer Racing Mercedes. Currently on a 34.8, 35.7, so that's quite a gap to the Jutta Racing Audi R8. Arunas Gashiaskis in the 71, currently in second, and then running third at the moment is Martin Kazmarski, and he is in the PTT by Schmitzelem Racing Mercedes, and their time of 35.772. So that's an outstanding lap by Maxi Partel in the Hofer car, almost a second quicker. The number 11.
The GT something by, what was the Schnitzel?
The PTT by Schnitzelam.
Schnitzelam, there we go. All schnitzel all day, our favourite schnitzel restaurant.
You're in Italy, though. You're not going to get any schnitzel there, my friend.
Yeah.
The land of pizza and
that
pasta.
is the sad news, I'm afraid. And of which there has been a lot, in fairness, in the last couple of days.
Well, I wouldn't worry, though. You're going to be able to make up with it. I would imagine there's going to be grilled herring available on the coast there.
What? No, it's pasta. We're in Italy. It's pasta, it's pizza, and it's gelato. That's all you need.
But when you're on the Adriatic, there is grilled pizza.
Grilled pizza?
Herring. What am I talking about?
I don't know.
Sardines.
Maximilian Partel, as you say, is leading this in the Hofer race. Now, interesting, I'm pretty sure that they also led the first section of qualifying in Portimao as well. So they've managed to get some speedy amateurs. It's Arunas Galiakis in the 71 Audi who is in second place at the moment. They've both put in times 1:34.8 and 1:35.7. So you see already the big spreads you get there, Joe, and these when the amateurs are in the cars. You know, the distance between the fastest and the slowest currently scored GT3 entries is just under 5 seconds. That's really hard for the other two drivers to make up. So it is always your key is your amateur driver, is one who can really make the difference early on.
It can be, but this is a Pro-Am series, isn't it, Nick? So it's not necessarily about optimum competitiveness. We'll leave that to the Pro series for GT3. It's all about being part of the event, isn't it? The 12 Hours in Misano this weekend. The 992 class I haven't mentioned yet. Ayrton Redont is in the pits with the provisional pole position with a 10th place overall. He's actually quicker than a couple of GT3 cars. And in the pits have come the two cars that are quickest overall. That's the Hofer Racing and Jutta Racing Mercedes and Audi. They're in the pits as well, Nick. So people maybe, I mean, there's only, 2 minutes and 40 seconds. So that, you know, they've run their session, haven't they?
Yeah, I think there's tyre conservation going on here. I think that, you're right, probably not fuel, but tyre conservation is key. There's only so many laps you're going to get performance out of these cars. And interestingly, earlier we were talking about lap records. It's probably a lot easier to set a lap record in March or April here than it is in the height of summer, because the track temperatures are going to be 15, 20 degrees higher now than they were when those cars were going around in those spring races. So, you know, I think we should look for ultimate lap times, even cross-comparing across tyre manufacturers. Just the track temperature will make that very, very difficult.
Yeah, it's a good point, actually, Nick. I think this heat is going to play a factor on many things tomorrow. I mean, we talk about the tyres, but we're talking about the engines and gearboxes going to be running very hot. We've got no cool air. The air is very, very hot here on the Adriatic. On the Rimini coast of Italy, which we're not complaining about. Let's have it. We're not complaining about that. It just adds another element to what we can talk about and what these teams and drivers and cars are going to encounter.
Now, there is an element of confusion, actually. On the live timing we have from Get Results, as Maximilian Parton is currently the fastest man in the Hofer Racing, but on the on-screen timing, it's saying it's Alex Prince. So perhaps we should send Mr. Hindhoff down to find out actually who it was who put in that fastest time. Was it Maximilian Parton or was it Alex Prince in the number 11 Hofer Racing car? We'll find out
as soon as I've spoken to Tracy Crone, who's standing alongside me. Well, did you put all the sectors together there, Tracy?
Not at all. The car was tending towards oversteer. I got interrupted by traffic a little bit. Probably could have gone one more lap really hard, but I thought I'd save the tires for my teammates. I mean, it's a very long race. I'm not terribly worried about qualifying in this race at all. I could tell the car was going to go to massive oversteer later on. Understand if I just drove it like that.
This is the first time I've seen you in a little while, and it's great to see you back. Suffering no ill effects from that nasty accident that you had the last time I was in the pit lane when we were last in Italy.
Yeah, that was meaningful. I broke 5 bones, two in my ribs and 3 bones in my back. But we raced a little over 3 weeks later, and that was a rude awakening. Getting in and out of the car was really the bigger problem. Being in the car once I was strapped in was fine, but getting in and out was tough. Driver change practice was interesting. but I'm fine now. I'm great now. Everything's good. Yeah.
What have you told Nick? I saw you having a quick word with Nick Johnson, your long-time racing partner, before he got into the car.
I told him I left him plenty of tire. Yeah.
Enjoy.
Yeah. The reality is that I felt I could have gone one more lap a lot harder, but it was just going to sink the tires for both of them and make it less effective for the guys that are truly faster than I am. So why not?
How important is qualifying here, Tracy? And is it quite a tight circuit? I know it's a 12-hour race, but surely it's always better to be closer to the front.
It is, but you know, there's going to be a lot of carnage in this race. This is pretty not a very wide racetrack. There's going to be a good bit of traffic, so I think we just got to be really patient here and watch out for the people behind us. I think I'll probably be looking as much or more in my rearview mirrors than I will be looking forward. Yeah.
It's great to see you back, my friend, and it's great to see you still enjoying it. Tracy Crone.
Really good to be back. It's always good to be back. Thank you.
Tracy Crone there, and Nick Johnson's suited, booted, and in the Crone Racing number 907 Porsche. That's the GT3 car, as we're in that short gap between session 1 and session 2. Nick and Joe have the times from that first 15 minutes.
Well, it's always good when your teammate is so self-sacrificing they leave some tyre there. So Hoffa Racing, Maximilian Bartel, they're now agreeing it was Maximilian Bartel who set that fastest time with Mercedes 1:34.85, and the very useful 9/10 of a second lead that we carried through the next 2 sessions over Utah Racing 71, Arunas Gekikokis, I think that's how you pronounce it, possibly not. Then it was PTT by Schnitzelsam Racing, the GT3 AMG Mercedes again with Martin Kosminski, and then it's Herbert Motorsport with a kind of mix and match lineup in the 91 between the 91 and 92 we've seen during the season. It was Scott Noble at the first session, who'll be partnered by Ralph Bond and Jason Hart. Then Haas RT, the Ruben Barbuda team, who have a completely different lineup of Marcel Zalua, Sergio Perez and Theo Calderonis, but they interviewed Sergio, who's taken the car out for that first session, and he was about 1.4 seconds off the overall lead. Sandlock Junior team, Michael Doppelmayr, Pierre Caffer, Elliot Earhart. It was Sven Herberger who took the first session for that one with the Audi. 7th was Prime Speed Motorsport. That's the New Zealand entered Aston Martin. Hermana Mezak, Liam Talbot, and somebody called Earl Bamber apparently should have a go at some point. And then it was RD Sainz, the Lamborghini in 8th, and that was Tim Muller who took that time. Tim, I'm sure, has been doing some racing with Herberth earlier. So about 3 seconds for that third. And then looking into the 992 class, the fastest of the 992s was Ayrton Redont in the 903 Radant Racing. He was followed by his teammate, the 904, with Peter Guelenich. And then it was Andrea Burati in the 922, Andrea Pampanini in the 967. With the red camels, Ivo Baruka's right way down there in 6th in class in the 909. And yeah, I can hear you. Off you go, John.
Down by the 91. I think you mentioned it was Scott Noble that had been in that car. It's now Ralph Bourne who's got in that car. So they're saving Jason Hart for the end. The car's still up on its jacks. The experienced teams putting the cars up on their jacks between sessions, I think just, frankly, to give the Hankooks a little bit of respite from the heat. Now, I should say that the pit lane working area is concrete and not the very dark tarmac that we have on the track. In fact, actually, even the fast lane isn't the very dark tarmac that we have on the track. It's a much older and much lighter one. However, there's also the thought of, at 56, 57 Celsius on the track, these Hankooks, potentially, you could put a little bit of a flat spot on them as well, just while they're sitting there, that will take half a lap or a lap to disappear. Ralph just waiting for the signal to start. There's 1 or 2 cars going out towards the end of the pit lane, so they must feel as though there's a chance to do something early on. But this car is not yet started, and we'll wait to hear that disappear. Nick Johnson's just been let down, literally, not metaphorically, in the green and blue Crone Racing car. That car's now on its Hankooks, ready to go. And we have the middle section, the 15 minutes of the middle section, which could prove crucial. Who can wring the best out of a 15-minute old set of tyres and set it up for the battle for pole, which comes a little bit later on in the final session. Green flag is in hand on the starter stand, but not yet in the air, Nick.
And we wait to wander away as some very reasonable crowd enjoying themselves there in the shade of the grandstand. I'm pretty sure they wouldn't want to be out in the glaring heat, which we see the cars rolling off the pit lane and getting ready for section 2 of this qualifying session, with some teams who've got large amounts of time to make up. They've been it's hard to say. I mean, as Joe says, this is a pro-am class. You can't say you put behind the 8 ball by your am driver because he's probably the person financing the race. But there are some teams who've got a couple of seconds to make up on rivals due to the way the team has been composed, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like we are starting these next 2 sections of this qualifying process with a clean sheet of paper. We haven't. That sheet of paper is now mapped out. We are starting with, you know, the times that we already have that go from a 1:34.8 being the quickest time and a 1:43.2 being the slowest time. That's over the overall 21 cars, by the way. So we, you know, the job in hand for the semi-pros and the pros, which will be potentially coming at the very end of this session. A few cars there still up on the jacks, I noticed. So no hurry to get out there. And again, I think that, Nick, is all about tyre usage, isn't it? And we're already seeing tyres being managed. However, if you don't get out there and get that banker time in now, and you wait until, you know, you might be up on the jacks until, I don't know, 10 minutes to go. Yep. So another 3 minutes before we see those cars potentially go out. And I say those cars, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars still on the stands, according to the timing screens. That's going to put pressure on the drivers, because that's going to reduce the amount of time they have to optimize their lap time and go as quickly as they possibly can. So not like they're not adding pressure to this job.
Yeah, John.
Thing is, guys, that is, you're tempting fate at this point as well. There are a couple of Manitou snatch tractors out there, but remember, this is a bike track, and not all of the orange crossover points, or where there's the gaps on the 3-layer metal fencing, not all of those are big enough to get a car through, either a rescue car or a racing car. When I went round the outside of the track this morning, I noticed that there's probably only half of them are wide enough to get a racing car or a snatch vehicle through. So if somebody goes off into the gravel and we get a red flag or a code 60, that could absolutely ruin any plans that you had. And in fact now, yeah, I'm looking at an empty pit lane now. So clearly spurred on by what you were seeing there, Joe, everybody's decided to have a quick go at it in the middle of this session.
Maybe they were listening to me and I reminded them of that jeopardy they were about to encounter.
I'm sure they're listening to you, Joe. I mean, I think the thing to remember is that it's not like some of the other rounds this championship where you can run the whole quarter for an hour, you can to get as many laps you want. The temperature in both the track, the car and the tyres means you have to try and optimise a 3 or 4 lap run if you want to go for pole. Obviously, you want to give yourself some track time, knock yourself out, run 15 minutes. But if you actually want to compete to be at the front of the grid in the GT3 class or the 992 class, you have to do a selected number of laps.
I'm sorry, Nick, I couldn't hear you there for the engine noise coming off the track. What I can tell you is we've, like John mentioned there, the remaining cars are now off their jacks and on their outlaps. We've had several second qualifying times put in. Justus Jonasis in the Duty Racing Audi, he's gone to the top of the screens with a 1:38.283. That's given that car an average of a 37.011, 3/10 quicker than Paulius Paxviakius in the RD Science Salai Racing Lamborghini second. A 1:36.7 by Paulius. That's given them a 1:36.7 has given them an average of a 1:37.3. So as quick as you can go, it's bringing that average down, and that's what the job in hand is in these next 2 15-minute segments. And we're already 5 minutes into the second one.
Yeah, right into the meat of this one. Now, interestingly, of course, whilst there is a huge amount of jeopardy, as you say, if something goes wrong for another car, there's also, at this point, a huge amount of traffic on the circuit. And you kind of have to weigh up. If you think, whoa, and round goes the Hoffa number 11, and that's with Kenneth Hyatt. So Kenneth, I think, took a little bit too much curb there. And just spun round the grey and pink machine, but he'll get up and running again. Kenneth was telling me in Portimao he did 36 weekends of racing last year, all around the world, as an AMG sort of supported sort of semi-pro top-level AM driver. So it's a pretty good career you can have. You get yourself involved with the Mercedes and stick with them for several years, Joe.
He's classed as an AM plus, actually, Nick, Kenneth Hyatt. All the other drivers in that car are AM drivers. Kenneth, perhaps certainly the most experienced. I'm surprised to see him as an AM plus. But does he make his living as a racing driver?
Yeah, 36 weekends last year. A lot in Japan. He just did a lot of GT4 stuff he does. So he's racing every week as a kind of the AMG place driver. And of course, he's not just for his pace. He obviously, when you when you go to a circuit where an AMG truck doesn't turn up, he also knows a huge amount about the setup and how to get the cars to run properly. So he's kind of got that kind of halfway house sort of driver stroke technical input as well. So a bit like a Mark Lieb really for Porsche.
We've just got a Mercedes, making it a Mercedes 1-2 at the front, or at the top of the timing screens. JMO Hartling in the PTT by Schnitzler Racing Mercedes. Average time of 35.798 after a 35.825. They are so close, those times. The first driver put in a 35.772, and then JMO just put in a 35.8. We've got a car off the track.
988, yeah, the MRS GT racing car. That's gone off, sort of around pit exit. So probably he had an error going around that complicated right, left, right of the Variante del Parco, and then he ended up on the gravel. There's no gravel. He ended up on the runoff. Got himself together, thought about it carefully, and got rolling again. So, a brief yellow, but I don't think anyone had their lap too badly spoiled by it. I don't think it was a point where there's a lot of cars coming by. But the track now is busy. People have tried to space themselves out, but there is quite a big speed differential between the various classes. So you need to make sure you're following the right class at the right distance. You want to get yourself a fast lap in here.
Luke Breukers in the number 909, that's the red Camel car. He has come back into the pits. Now remember, they've had a bit of a catalogue of issues with that number 909. The Porsche playing up quite a lot. They've had an engine reinstalled, or a new engine I should say, installed this morning, and they were looking potentially like they weren't going to get out at all in qualifying. Well, the car went out with Evo at the wheel, put in a time of 140.2. Luke Breukers, the younger brother of Rick, who will be in the car in the third segment, I think. Or maybe
I'm sure he will.
Maybe Fabian Dance might take the car out, we'll see. But Luke into the pits with just on half of this session still remaining, and I wonder if those problems have not yet been rectified. That's a job for Mr. Hindhoff to maybe investigate that. That car currently third in 992, 14th overall.
Yeah, they've been struggling with that. We're struggling with that car, the 909. There's actually been two different chassis have run that car number since the start of the European season. It didn't start particularly well when the car didn't come back from Dubai in time. So they had to get a completely different car into Mugello anyway. But let's see what John's got for us.
On that, Nick, the story on that, Nick, was that the car that was coming back from Dubai was due to be sold anyway. They had which I think they borrowed one for a race, and then their new car came. They've had some issues with this all-new red Camel chassis, let's call it that, because the interim car, I believe, was just a rental and it went back. But they've had more problems today. I'm nearly up there now. It was obviously at the exact opposite end of the pit lane to where I was when you asked me that question. So I'm stomping up the pit lane at the moment and trying not to get knocked over by the PTT Racing AMG, resplendent in its dark satin grey with the yellow racing stripe. And that's just pulled in. That's showing the 0-1, so that must be the fastest of the cars at the moment. Now Luke's just got out. I have a red Camel Jordan car which is sitting here, guys, door open, ignition on. It's just asking for me to jump in and take it for a go. Look, here it is. Look, evidence. I could get in that, they'd never get me out, mind you. Never get me out.
You wouldn't be able to get out. No, you wouldn't be able to get out, Hindhoff. Don't get in.
Let's now. Where's the team? They are here. I'm going to have a quick run in. You might lose me for a second as I go to the back of the pit. Paul Truswell is here. Paul, what's up? What's up with the car?
Nothing at the moment. It's going very nicely.
I thought you had a few problems early on in the week.
We did, but we fixed them all. We're going well now. Luke's just done his laps. He'd gone as fast as he wanted to, looking after the tyres. So next driver to go out will have as good tyres as possible.
What were the problems you were chasing earlier on this week in the test?
Engine, throttle, electronic.
Paul is shaking his head when he says as if to say, Hindhoff, it was a long list.
It was a long list of things. It was a small problem in the end, but it took us most of the night to get through. Mechanics have done a great job. They really have worked hard. We've just been sitting around waiting for them to finish. They did, as I say, brilliant job. We got the car. We still had to get the car scrutineered. Got that done with half an hour to go. Then got the fuel in it for qualifying, and we're ready to go now. Looking forward to a trouble-free 12 hours.
All things being equal, which, as Trussers would say, they normally aren't.
Well, yeah. No, I mean, the guys deserve it. As I say, we've worked so hard that we really deserve a good result now.
All the best, mate. Race well. Paul Truswell, newly minted, and absolutely deserving of that. Meantime, I've also been joined at this end of the pit lane by the Hofer Racing number 11. The number 11 is another car in a sort of satin dark grey black and shocking pink, purple, puce, not sure. Got to be wondering if that was the best idea for a car in this weather. If you look carefully around the Hofer Racing pit, you might see a few familiar faces in Hofer Racing T-shirts that might have just been in CP Racing garb in a previous incarnation, as we're getting ready to send cars for back out again, or getting them ready for the last section, I think, guys. And I'll have a bit of what you were eating there, Nick, please.
Okay, I'll just give it to you, no problem at all. Interestingly, I think if you look to your left, you've also got the current leader, which is the JMO Hartley in the 74 PTT by Schnitzelarm racing car. They have made it it's continued to be a Mercedes 1-2. Kenneth Hyde, despite that spin, has put in a time good enough to keep him second overall, and he is the massive amount on aggregate, Joe, of 11 thousandths of a second behind the 74 car. So it's a Mercedes battle at the moment, but there's still cars putting in time. There's still green sectors being put out there as people try to get the best possible part 2 to give them a chance to jump up the grid for part 3.
And if we could just stay this close together, please, for the 12 hours, that would be great.
Find the outgoing driver. However, I think he's dived out the back into a swimming pool or some dry ice or something.
I have a question for you, John, about swimming pools, because we've had some very hot Creventic races before. Certainly Barcelona a couple of years ago, and they have in the past they have provided team paddling pools for everyone to throw themselves into afterwards. Have you seen the team paddling pool yet?
There are a few teams who have come prepared, and I've seen some team members and some of the supporters. Hang on, I have got a driver here from Team Schnitzelarm. JMO, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine. The car feels very, very lovely, and momently we're on P1, and we hope that it keeps going on.
In some ways, you have the hardest job, having gone in the middle, because you don't have fresh tyres, but you've still got to leave a little bit for the third driver. Could you have gone quicker, or was that enough for you?
No, that was for me the quickest at the moment, because I want to give him a little bit also from the tyre, and
Wish you all the best. Drive well.
Yeah, for sure.
And the team name, and it's down here, Seb, look, Schnitzelarm. Team Schnitzelarm Racing. It's a schnitzel restaurant. Thank you, J-Mo Herting, there, out of the car that's leading at the moment. And just having been thrown in, I think that must be one of his Polish teammates. Oh my goodness, I've just seen the seating position in this car. He's sitting like he's sitting in the bath with his feet up by the taps. That is a very reclined, almost that would have been a single-seater driving position. See if we can get Seb in here to show you. It's not like F1 is now, but Joe Bradley will look at this and his pre-73 Van Diemen, that's more laid back than you were in that, Joe Bradley.
That's the way I like it. That's the way I like it. Almost lying down prone. Oh, by the way, Schnitzelam restaurants, they also do soup.
Oh, excellent.
Well.
Soup and sausages. Two of the favourite S types of food. So we have now got the checkered flag on qualifying Sector 2. A couple of cars completing laps. I can only see a couple of green sectors. So it does look like we're going to be crowning J-Mo Hartling and the 74 car as the current pole holder. But it's all to be played for in the next section. And then it's going to be Kenneth Hire in the 11. And it's now currently Ralph Bond has pulled the Herberth Motorsport 91 into third. So all to play. And in in the Porsche 992, it's Red Ant from Red Ant. It's a 903 from 904, and then Luke Broikers in third. And I don't think you'd have got very high odds. If you'd said Red Ant from Red Camel, I don't think William Hill would be that interested in giving you good odds on that, would they, Joe?
Yeah, that's pretty standard 992 24H series grid line up there, isn't it? The battle of the red species, as we say, continues on.
So a few seconds before the next session starts, you see the Land Motorsport Audi just pulling in there. And let's see how they are set up. So, as we said before, it's a 74 PTT by Schnitzelam Racing. Mercedes is currently leading from its fellow Mercedes of Hoffer Racing's Herberth Motorsports Porsche in third, and then Utah Racing Audi in fourth. Fifth, the Audi of Santalok Racing, and then, of course, it's the Kessel Racing Ferrari. We're in Italy, it should be a Ferrari. They're in sixth with the number 8 car. There's RD Sainz Lamborghini in seventh and Haas Racing Audi in eighth. So a good sprinkling of manufacturers in the top 8 of qualifying 2 so far. Ninth place is the Prime Speed Sport Aston Martin, though I'm predicting a big jump up in the times when Alabama gets into that car in a few minutes' time. That's the New Zealand entered car. E2P Racing from Spain will also have a bit of a hot shoe in the machine for the Sector 3. It's Alvaro Parent who's going to take that car over, currently in 10th. Land Motorsport are in 11th. Then we start with the 992s. As we said, it's Red Ant from Red Ant, 903 from 904. And then after that, we have the 909 of Red Camels and the 967. Then the 907, and then of course, we shouldn't always mention that down in 19th, but leading GTX is the Vortex.
Just one thing from the pit lane here, please, gents. If it looks like that Earl Bamber car is going to get up to pole position, will you give me plenty of warning? Because it is literally the furthest pit away from where I am now with PTT. Just watching at the moment, actually, the 111 Porsche, the GT4 Cayman. This is the Tim Neuser, Willy Sander, and Michael Sander and Willy Kuhner car. They're doing some driver practice. They're doing it sensibly in the shade of the garage at the moment. And I can tell you, they're getting in and out of GT4 cars. It's not that easy. I've been watching that. I need to be a hell of a lot more flexible than I am at the moment. You mentioned Kessel Racing. They're having a long and involved chat between themselves at the moment with that number 8, the mostly white Ferrari, but obviously it has by contract have to have some red on it. It's got some red sills and red wing end plates with the stripes across the top, which are very Scandinavian for an all-Italian driver lineup. That car with the door open, ready to go at the moment as we're waiting for the green light to go on at the end of pit lane. Have they been holding keeping their powder dry? It's Davide Fumanelli behind the wheel of that car at the moment with his distinctive white and bright orange crash helmet. This car, we've talked about this 296 in the past, gentlemen, haven't we? The 296 is sort of heralding in a new era of GT3 cars, and you can just see by the way it's put together. Seb's at the back of the car at the moment. Hopefully you're seeing what I can see standing next to him, which is a huge reverse mounted, or huge swan neck mounted rather, rear wing, big diffuser. And if you just come here, Seb, and just just 2 big clips to take the whole of the rear end off. There's one on the left and one on the right, and that whole thing comes off. The front end is the same, and I've been told by people close to the team they can do a rear or a front end change in under 30 seconds if there's any damage to the car. And this has basically encouraged every other GT3 manufacturer from wherever they are in the world to think differently about how they're building their GT3 cars. Yes, they're still based on the very expensive cars, road cars, that bears the same name. But really, apart from that, they are race car mentality, front to back, top to bottom, including the serviceability of these cars. Not just getting them into the performance window, but getting them serviced and getting them back out on the track if the worst should happen and you get some damage. Looks like the green flag is being waved. Yes, it is. So we've got 15 more minutes to decide pole position, gents.
Yep, and many cars already on the circuit, and I think they're going to try and make the most of getting out early, because they may wonder whether they need to do 2 runs or they can get away with a fast time 1 run. Certainly that new concept, or let's say new concept for GT3s has, as you say, spread through the field. People are looking at what they can do with serviceability. I noticed one of the elements of the announcement of the GT4 BMW was that they had increased the size of the sections of parts to improve serviceability. So even though they can't go the full clip-on, clip-off front and rear end, they're trying to think, right, let's not have 4 bits to replace when you've clunked the front of it. Let's just do 1 big bit. So, yep, serviceability, it's all about getting those cars in the operating window as quickly as possible and easy as possible. That's why, theoretically, GT3 cars are no faster than they were when they came out 20 years ago, but they're just able to run that speed every single lap.
Yeah, but what can happen is, it's not the first time we've seen modular approaches to sports car racing and endurance racing to make the job quicker in the pits. I'd like to know the cost of a rear deck, a rear section, which involves, it's a work of art, isn't it? A work of carbon fibre art, and it involves the rear diffuser and the rear section that goes over the engine cover, and also the front end, because if we start putting costs up of buying these cars and running these cars, and how many spare rear decks do you carry on the truck, and how much are they? That's perhaps a mission for Hindhoff, because it takes me back to the early 2000s and the Audi R8 prototype, the LMP1 car, that had a complete modular rear section from the back of the engine, from basically the flywheel to the very back of the car. And when the car's gearbox played up, we had that whole rear section in modular form, bolt off and bolt back on. 4 minutes to change a gearbox. That brought a regulation change in sports car endurance racing. So I want to know how much they are, because that could have a detrimental effect on the overall health of GT3.
Yeah, but I think oh, hang on, John.
Whole idea. Yeah, sorry, Nick. You know where that came from? That whole modular idea that came from the old Class 1 ITR DTM cars, which were 4-wheel drive and had the engines in the front. But what they used to do is, in between the races, and I think there was only half an hour or 45 minutes between the races, they used to break the car into 3 sections. So it would be engine and front end, then the middle section, and then the rear end would all get broken off, because it was sort of a transaxle on the back end of the car, and it would all get broken off and either replaced or serviced in between sections, and it was hugely expensive. And those old Class 1 cars were super quick.
And what happened to that? What happened to that specification of DTM?
I think it went bust, didn't it?
Well, yes, yes, exactly. Yes, exactly.
Well, ultimately, it's ended up as a GT3 category, hasn't it? Ultimately, it's ended up as a GT3 category DTM. So,
it's not DTM.
We're talking about over the period of 25 years.
The thing to remember about those,
DTM,
sorry, Joe, the thing to remember about those sections on the Ferrari is, yes, you buy a front and you buy a rear, but if you clip a corner, you haven't got to write the whole piece off. It's individual pieces are inside that unit. It's not one moulding of carbon fibre. It's just several pieces put together into a big chunk, which is easy to take and take off. Now, it's not cheap. It's a Ferrari, but it's not like a little damage means you've got to buy a whole rear end. You still have subsections within there. Now, they may be bigger subsections, but I think that when it comes to the competitiveness of a GT3, and it's, realistically, buying a nose or buying a tail unit is not the difference between winning and losing for the finances of these teams. It's But what I would say is a 10-minute change against a 30-second change is a huge advantage.
Can I just say, guys, we've got 9.5 minutes of this qualifying, the whole of the qualifying remaining. Can we leave this for tomorrow, where we've got 12 hours to deliberate and talk about this?
Seems fair enough.
Because right now, Herbert Motorsports, number 91 Porsche with Jason Hart, the American, at the wheel of that car, has taken this car to an average lap speed of 1:35.408. His time was a 34.791. That's how quick Jason Hart is going in that number 91, currently fastest.
Yep.
From the number 11, Alexander Prince, now in the car proper. That's definitely Alexander in that car, and their average is a 35.8. So 4/10 quicker, the Herbert car.
Yeah, but I think you'll find that Jason Hart is currently the only one of the drivers to really put in a flying lap. So he's 3 seconds faster than some of the others. So it's a case of building up, and of course we've got traffic and everything else. So maybe good enough. They were in third, so there's a good chance they can take up the overall. But we're still waiting for a time from Earl Bamber. We've just had Pierre Caffer's just done his first reasonable time. And in saying that, the 74 car of the Mercedes goes to the top. The sausage car, the PTT, with Matthias Lizowski has managed to overcome that. And despite the fact his time is 1:35.3 and therefore slower than Jason Hart's, it's still, though Hart now is up. I'm going to have to speak, it'll be way quicker because Hart's now back ahead again, which means they must have taken that lap away from Matthias. So Matthias Lizowski loses his lap for track limits, and therefore Jason Hart goes back to the top in the 91. It's going to be like that the whole way, but the 74 car does have the pace. You've got to stay on the track, though.
Well, we've just had Earl Bamber with the time disallowed for track infringements on the number 42. The team is called Prime Speed Sport, and we've still got Earl currently in 6th overall, 6th in GT3, in the 3rd in the Pro-Am class. And I'm not sure what that lap was. So his last lap time was a 1:38.110, and that's the lap time that stands currently, and has that car up to 6th place. The car currently 3rd, that's Pierre Caffer, as you would imagine. The team now with, or that team of drivers now being run by the Sonderlock Junior team. They were, of course, run by the Phoenix outfit until Phoenix disappeared. And Sonderlock now running Pierre Caffer and Michael Doppelmayr and Elia Earhart. And I believe they've got someone else in that number 18 with them as well this weekend, haven't they? They've got Sven Herberger, of course. We've seen him in that car before.
So interesting, the best time we've seen so far, I think one of the best times we've seen so far has come from David Fuminelli in the number 8 Ferrari, but because of the other two drivers, that isn't really enough to pull him back up through 5th. So it's currently Pierre Caffer in 4th in the 18, you say, and Alexander Prince, which is a good team. That's a pure AM team with one AM plus, but they've all managed to put in a reasonable time, and certainly the first element of this qualifying was where they really, really gained. So just goes to show that it's not about, sometimes it's just not about your hot shoe, it's about the average of your 3, and that's what it's all about. It's about giving the value to all the members of the team, making all the members of the team part of qualifying, which they very rarely are in endurance racing.
Matt Lizowski in the Mercedes of the Schnitzel and Racing team goes back to the front. This time he stayed within the track limits and put in a 1:34.810. That is not quite as quick as his teammate went in the second section of qualifying. That was a 34.671, but it has given them a 4/10 quicker lap average than the Herbert car, which is currently in second place. So Jason Hart currently second, Alexander Prince still 3rd, Pierre Caffer's been shuffled down to 4th, and there's another track limit infringement, the 91 car of Jason Hart. He's incurred the wrath of the stewards, and he's had a time disallowed.
Yeah, so just with Matthias Lizowski now in the 74 back in again after losing a lap to track limits. He did a fair lap. In fact, it's the fastest lap of all he's done with it, 1:34.682. So he's added that lead now, but then suddenly Alexander Prince is a 1:35.6. So the lead is 3/10 on average. But just to say that to go past that, Alexander Prince would have to go 6/10 faster than him to make up for the stagger effectively of the previous two drivers. Jason Hart, he is running in 3rd. He's on a quick one. Actually, it wasn't a quick one. He's had to abort during the middle sector. And then we have Pierre Café Finelli just in 992. It's still an internecine battle between the Red Ants. It's 903 ahead of 904. The difference being about 4/10, and it's Kobe de Bruca in the 903 and Michael Haverens in the 904. But I think that's probably going to stick that way. To be honest, I can't see them making up best part of a second. 904 on the 903.
Yeah, that is that 992 class. One of perhaps. I think, if I was to ask which one is my favourite, it's like choosing your favourite child, isn't it?
It's quite easy.
I'm always a massive fan of the 992 Porsche class because the racing is so intense. You only have to look at young Trustwell. He's only 37. And you just look at Paul through the races where he's having to make on the hoof decisions. Instantly, he has to keep an eye on his competitors. That's how close they are. They can't spare even fractions of a second within pit stops. And then I'm sure tomorrow we're going to see strategies and tactics coming into play of how much fuel to take on in a Code 60 and or whether indeed to come in on a Code 60. It all gets very, very intense and dramatic in the 992 class.
Yeah, and of course, in some ways, though, it's a simpler process for tomorrow's race because it's 12 hours straight through. You aren't trying to back time to an intervention break. You've just got to get down there and run the quickest you possibly can, take into account nothing.
You don't do that, Nick. You treat the intervention as just like a pause button.
Well, you don't. Well, I'm going to have to disagree with you there because I've spoken to a number of people who said that's not what happens. They are trying to stay on the same lap. They don't have to. That's all they have to do is stay on the lead lap, and they actually think about laps compared to the opposition rather than times. But it doesn't matter. Again, we're off topic because it's a 12 hours straight through.
Car with me.
So let's go and hear from John.
So we have the number 74 in and parked at 40. Well, I was going to say about 45 degrees. It's a little more of an angle than that. What's the gap at the moment between the 74 and the chasing pack? Because they're not getting the driver out of this car, but I'm not sure there'd be time to get it out and back up to speed.
They currently got 3/10 on the field, which effectively is obviously double that for the individual driver, John. So they're pretty confident. I think they're pretty safe.
Well, drivers staying in the car at the moment and being blown with a Milwaukee Power Tools leaf blower to try and keep him down. Which of the poles is in it at the moment, Nick? Because they're both rather annoyingly. Sorry.
It's Matthias Lizowski who is in there.
Yeah, okay. They both wear Stilo carbon fibre helmets, and so I can't tell those two apart. Jimo Hertling, excuse me, wears something a little bit brighter. And how long have we got left?
1 minute 40 seconds.
Who's on a fast lap?
No one at the moment. They're just Jason Hart just set his fastest time, but he's still 2.5 tenths, quarter of a second behind on average, which is obviously more than half a second individually. Alexander Prince is starting a relatively quick one. Well, Bamber hasn't put in anything particularly fast. He's put a 35.7, so I'm going to save you that walk down the pit lane, unfortunately. I was kind of looking forward to getting ultimate revenge and sending you from one end to the other, John. So but that's not happening. So it's pretty much, there is an outside chance if Jason Hart put an absolute stormer in that he could possibly nick it, but that's like really on, yeah, it's about as likely as us getting a 94.5-minute winner from an overhead kick, basically.
Well, I'm standing behind the team at the moment who are watching the same pictures that you're seeing, and that is showing the number 91 black and gold Porsche with Jason Hart at the wheel. They're staring at the split times as well as we're down inside the last minute. This is for pole position on the first ever Misano Hankook 12 hours. And in the beautiful sunshine, just off the coast of the Adriatic, we're about 2 miles from the very wide beaches that are full of Italian tourists at the moment. Not sure if it's a particularly busy or why it's a particularly busy tourism weekend, but it is. Not the sort of, not the place where the UK tourists come to. They're about another 9-10 miles, 10 kilometres up the coast at Rimini, and still counting down. 24 seconds to go, and I'll tell you, there's tension here, Nick. So This is quite impressive to watch the guys. They're watching the split times and scrutinising it at the moment as Jason Hart comes through the final corner and onto the front straight across the line with 5 seconds to go. The Herbert car will have one more lap, but I didn't see an improvement there, Nick.
No, last time round it's a 34.556 and his best is a 34.526. It was close, but I don't think there isn't that half second there. It's interesting, look at the intenseness in which the teams are staring and hoping. Just goes to prove that pole is important in endurance racing. Even if it's not important to the race, it's important to the teams, it's important to the overnight, the overnight psyche of the team as well, I think.
Well, I think they've called it here because the driver is out of the Marcus Lazowski is out of the car. The team manager has decided that this is theirs, and so they've called it early. Checkered flag is out. We saw the 91 go through with 4 seconds on the clock for that Porsche, so there's still the potential for an improvement. But now they've seen the first split time, and that was the noise of the team saying, guys, we've done it, and there's congratulations going on down here in the pit lane. That was the noise as soon as Jason went through the first split and they realised that they weren't going to make it. You got that live here from Misano. Let's see if we can grab one of the drivers and see what went on. I'm going to squeeze through. I don't want to knacker anybody's shot there. Let's dig in here. Where's Marcus, who's just got out the car? Marcus, let's have a quick word. Congratulations, you were left sitting out there in the car for a little bit, and then the word came through that it looked like Herbert weren't going to beat you. You're on pole position for tomorrow for the first ever Misano 12 hours. How do you feel?
Yeah, I feel really amazing. The people and the team, did a really good job through the race weekend. So I'm really appreciated. Thank you, and I try our best to achieve good results.
How much tyre did your two colleagues leave you for that last stint?
Yeah, it was really tough, but it's quite okay. It's nice.
And are you going to start tomorrow?
I think no, because I am driver number 2 or 3, I don't remember. But for sure I'm not starting the race. The J start the race.
So JMO's going to start tomorrow?
Exactly.
Okay, congratulations, pole position. You get to celebrate that tonight?
Yeah, no celebrate, because tomorrow we have really important race.
Small celebration?
Yeah, maybe small beer.
Oh, small beer.
But zero voltage.
Zero alcohol, absolutely right. Congratulations, man. Well done. I think he needed that, actually. I want to grab, let's grab where's the other driver? Where's the third driver? Let's grab. You're the only driver we've not spoken to, JMO, early on. Congratulations. Well done on pole position. How does it feel?
Normal.
It was expected.
No, I have really good drivers in my car. That's why I am not surprised, to be honest. I'm not happy because of my time, but to be honest, my drivers are really good and really fast. That's why I would be really surprised if we will not be first.
It's going to be a very hard and physical race tomorrow. It was raining earlier in the week. Did you expect the temperatures to be this hot? And what can you do to make sure that you're all staying fit in the car?
For me, it's not the problem because I am a Dakar driver. I was 9 in overall. That's why for me, I was 2 weeks in the car, and and it was much higher temperatures. That's why for me it's not the problem. I hope I'm gonna help my friends to feel good in the car.
See, I think that's an impressive. I think that's an impressive dedication that you spent 2 weeks doing the Dakar just to get ready for this 12-hour race.
Exactly. I did it just for Creventic. That's why.
Good luck and congratulations on pole position.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
There you go, guys. Our pole position sitters there in the PTT, Pure Track Technology, AMG. They will bring the car round to green tomorrow.
Yeah, and they will Enjoy starting from Paul. Interesting that he's not the only person in the Creventic paddock who's done the Dakar. We've had 3 or 4, haven't we, Joe, over the time? We had was it Adam Lacko, I think, or Dave Rescue. A couple of the people in the Boogie Ra team have done Dakar. It's interesting crossover, isn't it, Dakar and Creventic?
It's a similar challenge, isn't it, Nick? It's an endurance, a test of endurance and strength, etc.
And the results are now formal in qualifying 3. It was at 74 PGT by Schnitzel Racing GT3 AMG. Mercedes was on pole. It'll be joined on the front row by Herbert Motorsport with their Porsche. Then it's Hoffer Racing with their Mercedes in 3rd. Santalok Jr. with the Audi in 4th. It's the Sol Ferrari, the Boeing Kessel Racing in 5th. Next to it, the Utah Racing, the Lithuanian Audi is in 6th, and it's the Prime Speed Sport. Earl Bramber pulled that vantage up to 7th on the grid, and rounding out the 4th row tomorrow morning will be the E2P racing car, the 911 GT3. Then it's the RD Signs Lamborghini with their Huracan, and joined by Haas RT, so that's Lamborghini with Audi. Then we've got Audi again in 11th, the Land Motorsport machine. And then we have our first of our 992 runners. It's the 903 Red Ant racing car that is the pole in the 992 class, and 12th overall, 13th overall, the fellow Red Ant machine, the 904. So it's a 1-2 for the Belgian teams. They are in 13th, but 2nd as well. Then in 14th, but in 3rd in class, it's Red Camels Jordan, recovering from their problems earlier in the week. And Tracy Cron, who we heard from earlier in the 907 RPM racing, his team is starting in 4th in 992 and 15th overall. And then it's HRT Performance. And to bring up the end of our 992 and GT3 combination, it's Fugazi Racing then with their 992 in 17th. MRS Racing, the 988, 18th. Vortex are the GTX pole sitters, and will start from the grid in 19th with the Vortex 2. It's the 2, remember. Then the 917 Orchid Racing team and the Sebleju Racing by Duo Racing, those two 992 AM cars, bring up the back end of this GT3 and GTX and 992 combined qualifying. And now let's have a look at some of the highlights of this qualifying session. Well, once again, qualifying from Creventic does not disappoint. This 3-section qualifying concept really works well for endurance racing, but we have now set the grid for both the TCE, the GTE, the GT4s, the 992s and the GT3s. And we'll be back. The next thing you'll see is the start of the race. It is live from 9:30 Central European time. That's 8:30 in the UK, where you get to see John Hindhoff doing my job and doing the grid walk, and I should be taking notes to see where I can criticise him. No, to see how well he does it. But for that, so I say thank you from all of us, from me, from Joe Bradley, from Diana Binks, from John Hindhoff. Join us tomorrow at 9:30 European, 8:30 UK for the 12 hours of Misano, powered by Hankook.